Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are from a landmark production going up at the University of Iowa the weekend of the 26th and 27th of April. It's Fierce, a new opera composed by jazz professor William Menefield. Will, nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
I haven't seen you since in person, I think, since the Rhodes Scholars was at Jazz Under the Stars.
That is right. That was a great night, wasn't it?
which was a very fun night.
Absolutely.
And Andre Perry, director at Hancher Auditorium, is here as well. Andre, nice to see you.
Great to see you, Dennis.
Yep. Oh, say that again.
It's great to see you.
There we
Dennis.
go. Yep. You'd be surprised how much better transmission is when I turn on your microphone. So, yeah. Well, nice to have you both here. I'm really excited to hear more about Fierce. Will, I remember, when I first met you, a couple of years after you got to the U of I, because you came during COVID, so nobody met anybody.
Right.
But I remember that you were kind of in final prep stages for the premiere of this in Cincinnati. So, let's start with how this came together. Jazz and opera. It's not unheard of.
Right.
I'm thinking of Fire Shut Up My Bones, which
Yeah.
I watched little pieces of on YouTube by Terrell Stafford, and
Absolutely.
but still also not quite a unicorn, but a rare animal. So so tell me about the genesis of the project.
Yeah. So I was approached by the Cincinnati Opera to possibly work on a new project that they were commissioning, which ultimately became Fierce. At the time, the working title was Girls 2020. The reason why is because 2020 was the 100th anniversary of the women's suffrage movement and the 100th anniversary of the Cincinnati Opera. So they wanted to do something that celebrated women. So ultimately, they asked me, as well as Sheila Williams, the librettist on the project, to come on. And what this was a collaboration between the Cincinnati Opera, Music Resource Center, and Wordplay. Music Resource Center, Wordplay, after school and summer programs, one for music, one for writing for young people between the ages of 13 and 18. So they got 10 young ladies from these two organizations, five from each. And Sheila Williams, our librettist, sat down and had conversations with these young ladies for 9 months on a weekly basis. That was the source material. And ultimately, she created characters and a narrative that was based off their real life testimonies. So that's what Fierce is about, is these the issues that were on their minds, and ultimately how they learned to overcome them.
You were you're in this from the beginning,
Right.
So Sheila's working on the libretto. She's
Yeah.
interviewing the young women.
Yeah.
And then is she talking to you? Were you sitting in on any of that?
No.
What were you doing while
They
that part was
they
going
had a
on?
no boys allowed sign on the door. So I wasn't allowed to be a part of it, and that was intentional. They wanted to make sure that the young ladies felt comfortable saying any and everything that was on their minds. So I waited until the libretto was completed, and I didn't try to write any music. I just wanted everything that I wrote to be inspired by the words that I read when I read them. And as you said, I'm a professor of jazz studies here, and a lot of people know me as a jazz musician, but my degrees are actually in classical composition. And I was approached by the Cincinnati Opera for both of those reasons. In the Cincinnati area, which is where I'm from, a lot of people knew me from my performance career, but that I also was getting more and more into writing other things. So it's like, hey, there's an opportunity here. So the music ultimately is very eclectic because, that's just the life that I lived, the musical life that I lived from the time I was a child. I grew up listening to a lot of different stuff and playing a lot of different stuff. Both of my parents, musicians, my dad's, that's where I get most of my jazz side from. He's a saxophone player. And my mom, music teacher, violinist, vocalist. That's where the opera and classical influence comes from. So we grew up listening to Earth, Wind, Fire, Stevie Wonder, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Kathleen Battle and Segovia and all these people in the same day. So the music in the opera is eclectic, just like that. You know, you'll get some things that sound like traditional opera, very classical kind of sound, and you'll get some things that very much sound like jazz, reggae, Afro-Cuban, R&B, hip hop. It has so many different styles represented because that's my language. And you know, it was very organic, but also intentional. You know, I wanted to, as much as this, I wanted this to be about the narrative and the story. You know, a good opera also feels like a good concert too. You know, so I wanted people to be able to have some tunes to hold on to sing on their way out. So that was very important to me as well.
Well, and of course, you're also telling the story of young women in contemporary American society. So how could you not have contemporary American sounds in there?
It's almost like you knew what I was thinking, Dennis. Were you hanging out when I was writing this thing, man? No, you're absolutely right, man. That also was very intentional. I wanted it to sound. I wanted there to be enough of everything to attract different kinds of listeners, because you know the assumption is that opera can only sound one way, and it can only be about a handful of things, and you know, one of my goals as a musician, and specifically in this case as a composer, I want to serve the most people that I possibly can. And that's ultimately what this is about, providing a service to people, something that they can come to, listen to, enjoy, be inspired by, and that still feels good, sounds good, et cetera, and so forth. So even though the story is telling, the story that's told rather is about 4 teenage girls, there's something in here, I believe, that's for everybody, whether it's something in the music, they can get something out of the story. Maybe it's something they will enjoy from the set design or the costumes. I really feel like there's a lot to love about this particular production we're doing at Hancher, and I'm excited about it.
Andre Perry, you were, I think at least you were part of a team from the U of I that went and saw the opera in Cincinnati, or there was a team that went.
Yeah, I was part of the team that went there, but probably more importantly than that, just going there to support, you know, who had become one of my new friends in town and an artist whose work I love and respect. And I just wanted to be there with Will just to see that work come to the stage. You know, it was a great joy, you know, and this was coming out of like kind of like the worst part of the pandemic. So just to be on the road to see art perform live.
Oh, that was huge.
You know, it was part of like my own reintroduction to society, you know, and it was an amazing event. I can say that being there, it was almost immediately known, and I didn't know the path that we would need to get there, but immediately known that we had to find a way to bring this work to our community here in the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids area.
Yeah. That was my question. So you go to support your friend and to show the U of I flag, but you came away thinking this is important art that we need to do.
Indeed. I mean, there's so many things going on here. One, we have a local who's creating this work that's on a national scale, and so we just got to honor and respect that. But a lot of things that Will was talking about the different kinds of music that are in there and the ways that it's reflecting both traditional, you know, ways of music, but also American society and contemporary society right now. I think that's kind of in like the DNA of the work that we're trying to do on our creative campus at the University of Iowa right now, is to respect that tradition, but try to like think about how do we pull it forward? How do we make it relevant to the stories that we're going through today, whether it's us sitting in this room or a student who's coming in who's 18, 19 years old? How do we help people find their own voice to tell those stories or to interpret those stories? So this was just like a magical work that I think was going to do great things for our student body, and then great things for us as the community members as well as for the artists involved. And so,
well, and I know that you've been working on a very interdisciplinary concept, you know, trying to break down some of the silos. You know, this is Hancher, this is the School of Music, this is the theater department, this is a real collaboration going on. Yeah.
This is a super collaboration, you know, specifically on this project. It is the School of Music, it is our production unit, it's Hancher Auditorium, all coming together to get this to the stage. The larger project is Performing Arts at Iowa, which is all 5 of our performing arts units, you know, School of Music, of course, but also our dance department, our theater arts, that production unit in Hancher, and we're basically navigating this beautiful, sometimes choppy balance between being so unique, School of Music being what it is, Hancher being what it is, but then also figuring out, okay, where do we come together with these resources, these talents, and do something bigger that's going to be bigger than anything we could do on our own. And so this is like, it's not the only project we're working on, but it's like one of the capstone projects that we're working on, in this academic and school year that we're going through here.
Will, the other new aspect of this for you is you are directing the production.
I am.
And that's a little bit of a first, yeah, is it?
It's a lot of bit of a first. And it's been quite the learning experience, but it's been very rewarding. I did a lot of theater when I was much younger, so I had to blow the dust off my theater chops a bit. Grateful. Shout out to all of my teachers at the School for Creative and Performing Arts, which is the high school I went to in Cincinnati, for all of our theater training. So because of that, I felt comfortable taking on this opportunity to direct, and it's unique, directing a piece that I composed, and it's unique because there were a lot of things that I saw when I was writing the music, and having the opportunity to really implement those things now that I saw when I was actually sitting at the piano, trying to figure out what this was going to sound like. And because it's theater, I was very intentionally trying to see things as well. So now get to implement those things. Working with the students, it not only is a learning experience for me, but it's also a learning experience for them, because I still operate in the capacity of professor. So, I'm doing a lot of teaching, and it's like finding the balance between directing and teaching and all of like, oh yeah, I wrote the music. I have to talk about that too sometimes. So I have to talk about the music. So it's quite the balance. But it's been very rewarding. As I said, I've learned a great deal, and candidly, I hope to direct again at some point.
So you had a chance to watch this, obviously, in Cincinnati,
Yes.
and were a part of it coming together, but also kind of turned it over to them.
Yes.
I'm guessing
Yes.
to do it.
Yes.
Now you really got your hands on it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
without throwing your colleagues in Cincinnati under the bus or anything, what's something that you wanted to do? I'm going to say differently than that production, but it probably is a part of your original vision that maybe just wasn't quite a part of that production. But what's one thing that we'll see that is
Only one?
Yeah.
Well, because just to be candid with you, it's going to be very different in general. One thing that I will highlight will be the set design, and I want to shout out our amazing set designer and costume designer too. She's both. Her name is Margaret. Margaret, oh my goodness, she's a genius. The set. Just the model of the set. I haven't got to see the real thing yet. We're going to get to see that next week because we're actually moving in right now into Hancher. Just absolutely incredible, and it's gonna allow the piece to be seen in a different way, and ultimately because of the visual experience that the audience will get, I think that they'll hear it differently as a result. So that's one thing that will be different. There are other things, but I'll let everybody come to the show and see those.
The opera is Fierce, Iowa premiere, composed by the University of Iowa's William Menefield, and a co-production with Hancher and all the other performing arts areas at the University of Iowa, April 26th and 27th. Andre, how do we get tickets?
You go to the website, hancher.uiowa.edu. I believe tickets are about $20 for general public, $10 for youth K through 12 across our area, and $5 for University of Iowa students.
And let's just say all those prices, even the full price adult prices, are crazy cheap for what we're getting here.
Well, this is part of what we do, is investing in artistic engagement for our community, for our campuses, whether it's Kirkwood or the University of Iowa, whether it's a Cedar Rapids High School or an Iowa City High School. We have to sometimes invest to make sure that all of us get to engage, have fun, and be exposed to these amazing things that are happening in our backyard.
This is one you're going to want to say you were there. So hope that you can make it on April 26th or 27th. Well, Mr. Director, good luck as the final production comes together and you move into the space, move into your tech week and all that crazy stuff that happens right before a production goes up. And really looking forward to seeing this live and on stage.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us today. Really appreciate you.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30 or download the podcast. Watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture. Watch videos on our Facebook or YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. I'm Dennis Green. I'll talk to you later.